So good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to each one of you for the launch of Seva Nivesh platform. I am Harshu Ghate, founder director of Seva Foundation. Before we start with the formal launch, let me take a couple of minutes to give you the context and the background of this platform. At Seva one of our prime goal is to help social organizations get financially stronger. By financially stronger, we not only mean raising more funds, but more importantly, improving the quality of the funds that are being raised. So we believe that the funding of organizations has to be sustainable, predictable, and diversified. For funding to be sustainable and predictable, organizations will have to improve their fundability and also credibility. Diversity in funding sources can be achieved by developing new sources, both internal and external, and also leveraging the existing available sources. One of the bottlenecks that we have seen in fundraising has been the trust deficit between the donors and the organizations. Donors often complain about lack of transparency and accountability for the funds donated. Seva Nivesh is a platform that brings together the fund seekers and the suppliers. For fundable and credible organizations, it helps to make themselves more visible to the investors and improving their outreach. It is also a vehicle that enables them to diversify their funding through listing on the stock exchange. For the philanthropist, Seva Nivesh is a place for them to know, interact, and evaluate organizations which are going for listing on the exchange. Due diligence of these entities by the stock exchanges ensures that their credibility and fundability. Post-issue reporting and disclosures which the regulations require, including third-party impact assessments, ensure transparency and accountability. We believe that the lukewarm response that the SSC has received so far is a result of this chicken and egg dilemma. Both the demand and supply side are looking at each other to take the initiative. We thought, why not bring them on one table and break the ice? That led to conceptualization and design of Seva Nivesh. But this is not a crowdfunding platform. So any organization cannot raise donations here for their organizations, but it is meant only for those organizations who have decided or are planning to go for listing on the social stock exchange. As we progress further in this event, you will have a quick walkthrough of the platform as well. With these initial comments and the context, I would now request my colleague Vaibhavi to introduce our chief guest, Ms. Rati Forbes.
A warm welcome and thank you to everyone for joining us today. To ensure a smooth session for everyone, we'll be keeping all the participants on mute. Please feel free to share your questions in the chat box and we'll make sure to come back to them. Today is a special milestone for Seva Foundation, and we are truly honored to have with us our chief guest, Ms. Rati Forbes. Rati ma'am leads the Forbes Marshall Group of Companies as director and heads the Forbes Foundation, where her compass points steadily towards social responsibility and thoughtful leadership. A business leader and philanthropist with a taste of lifelong learning, she returned to academia at 50 to earn a master's in sustainability management and leadership from Cambridge. Her explorations haven't stopped since, ranging from Indian arts and aesthetics to courses that deepen compassion. With academic roots in psychology and sociology and executive training in HR, organizational behavior, and strategic philanthropy, she brings a wide, human centered lens to her work. She has served as an independent director on several boards and chaired CII's Western Region Cell for Social Development for 6 years, championing corporate sensitivity towards community needs. On behalf of the entire team, I extend a warm welcome to you, ma'am, and thank you for taking the time to be with us for this important occasion. With that, I request you to formally launch the Seva Nivesh portal.
In the Hindu tradition, there is a something like you just connect me through your hand.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for graciously inaugurating the portal. We will now proceed with a brief walkthrough of the portal.
Welcome to Seva Nivesh. Seva Nivesh works at two levels. One is the public website www.sevanivesh.org that offers detailed insights and statistics on sector-wise funds raised across all geographies by NPOs. It also covers latest updates, regulations, FAQs and blogs related to SSE. The other is the platform for NPOs and investors to know, interact and evaluate each other in the SSE listing process. The objective is to be a single window in anything one would want to know about SSE. To use this platform, please begin by completing your registration as NPO or as investor. Let's begin with NPO registration first. Registration for NPOs is a simple process that involves providing your organization's name, details of authorized person, and setting up a secure password. Upon successful registration, please provide basic information about the organization along with social media presence. In addition, provide financial statements, donor relationships, and awards and recognitions that showcase your impact of work. After completing your profile, the dashboard is created. This dashboard represents the total number of registered investors on the portal categorized by the investor types. The investor analytics provides insights into the investors who share the same domain preference as yours, along with the number of investors who have visited your homepage. Proceed to add the details of the project you wish to list on the platform. Under Add Issue, fill in all the required fields and clearly define the project objectives. Under the Documents Required section, you can describe your project in detail to present it as clearly and effectively as possible. This section also allows you to upload supporting documents like the pitch document, project summary, budget in Word, PDF, Excel and PowerPoint formats. Under the Outcome, Impact and Beneficiaries section, you can share details about the impact the project aims to create and the beneficiaries it will serve. You may also upload the relevant reports. Under promotional materials, you may upload multiple newspaper or magazine articles featuring your NPO, videos that capture your activities, posters and advertisements, as well as past success stories and case studies. Lastly, you can upload the details of your successful past projects and their impact reports. Once everything is submitted, the NPO will be presented with a consolidated comprehensive report. In short, a clear snapshot of everything that has to be listed. Our goal is to empower the NGOs with smooth, structured and reliable process to present their projects with confidence. Now let's move to the investor experience. Individuals, family offices, foundations and trusts all can register on this portal as investors. Like NPOs, registration for investors is a simple two-step process. Once registered, investors gain access to a curated view of all the issues that matter most to them. Our platform dynamically maps NGOs that align with the chosen focus areas of the investors, making it easy for them to discover meaningful projects and choose where they want to make a difference. And now, let's take a look at the dynamic dashboard that brings all this to life. Based on the preference or shortlisting of the project, Seva Nivesh team will facilitate interaction of the investor and NPO and take the discussion further. With that, we would like to inform that the portal is open for registration from today. Request you to share it with more change makers in the social space.
I would now request Rati ma'am to share her thoughts.
Thank you very much, Harshu, and all the team for inviting me to here today. I thought I would just share, as we are mainly NPOs and smaller NGOs on this call, I thought it would be more opportune to share a little bit about just generally the fundraising scenario in our country, especially for smaller organizations. So, as we all know, the funding breakdown really today is actually 95% is government funds and government spending. That's the vast majority of social funding in our country. However, most smaller organizations that at least I'm familiar with really rely on the primary pool for funding being from CSRs, from philanthropy, and hopefully from different sources of funding, the kind of which we just heard today, like SSE. Unfortunately, what happens is that there is this trust deficit, as Harshu alluded to. And I think it is for individuals like myself and others, where we have to bridge that. And so I personally very consciously give at least 10 to 15% of my own funding, which is completely unrestricted and trust based. And this amount, this percentage continues to grow. But what has happened in the whole fundraising scenario in our country and actually worldwide as well, that it has really evolved into almost like a very well thought through, well curated kind of a profession, in fact. So there is a real professionalization of fundraising in our country as well. This has been the trend for, I would say, the last 30, 40 years in the at least in the West. But certainly it is happening more and more here. But what I mean by professionalizing is not that you become a professional and gain some commission by fundraising. It is more really a strategic function and a core leadership capability which every organization or every NPO needs to really have. And so you see the emergence of organizations like ILSS, of individual fundraising consultants who are actually helping one to become better fundraisers. And I personally think it's a skill that all of us in the sector need to acquire. Um, but conversely, what is happening is also that there's an emerging recognition of actual fatigue and burnout for fundraisers, and suggests a need for support, for dialogue, and that is where organizations, I think, like SSC can really support and help those people who are particularly focused on fundraising. And similarly, I find that there is a broadening of actual overall resilience of the ecosystem. So I've been partnering with an organization called India Partner Network, which was set up by Satwa, which actually builds capacity of organizations in different ways. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's also a portal where one can register oneself. But there I have found that fundraising in particular is not only the the resource that gets the most hits, but it is also the one where there's the most back and forth discussion, argument, dialogue, and so on, which makes me once again believe how important and how crucial this is for all of us who are working in the social sector. And finally, I think more and more there are digital tools and which help with efficiency in fundraising and give us various methodologies or approaches that are more new. I was recently also on a webinar with Dan Veda's fundraiser GPT, which some of again you all may be familiar with. I think more and more what I would just say that I think there are I believe that entities like SSC are a must, and it's really great that it has been launched in our country, and that Seva Tarang Foundation is actually supporting and helping particularly smaller organizations on the way to actually launch yourselves on SSC. There are many myths and misconceptions about SSE and how difficult it is for organizations to launch themselves. But I particularly know of one that I'm on the board of, and actually, it was a very seamless process. It was not that difficult. And I think with the portal that has been launched by Seva Tarang Foundation today, it will make your job even easier to to launch yourself on SSC. So thank you very much, Harshu and team, for inviting me, and looking forward to the panel discussion which follows.
Uh, Thank you, Rati, for your words of appreciation and encouragement. I think your experience and your presence across the whole sector and all kinds of organizations, and your experience especially in with the fundraising teams of those organizations. I think your views are really very important. Thank you again for that. Uh, as I mentioned in my initial comments, Seva Nivesh is an attempt to break the ice between the investors and the social organizations. We know that it is going to be a long haul. We know it's going to take time to do something very significant in this area, but we are prepared for it. Um, Access and use of Seva Nivesh is going to be completely free, both for the investors as well as for the organizations. And we do not intend to charge until we have proven our utility and value addition to the stakeholders. Till then, our one parameter on which we are going to sort of gauge ourselves would be to find out how many organizations we could really help list on the exchange, as well as how many investors we could attract to the exchange. We are aware that success of a platform like this depends on how we can balance and grow both the demand side and the supply side. And especially in the current scenario, I think the key success is going to be how we are able to enroll and attract more and more investors on the platform. To enable ease of investing, we have a couple of features which are under development for the platform. The first is partnerships to enable online payments and UPI payments and facilitate opening of demat accounts. So investors are going to need to have a demat account to invest on the exchange, and we'll facilitate for those who do not have demat accounts. So that's one development which is underway, and we would soon be launching it. The second initiative we are taking, and again under development, is the employee giving solution. Basically, the idea here is how we can bring the corporate employee sector to invest on the exchange. And as you would know, the minimum threshold limit for investing on the SSE is only ₹1,000. So I think this is very much within the reach of corporate employees. Beyond that, we would constantly be looking at ways in which we can keep on adding value to the portal and adding value both to the investors and the organizations. And we will really look forward to suggestions and feedbacks, and also the way this whole concept evolves. We would be game for adding in more features and even in terms of the technology. So with those comments, let me now begin our panel discussion. And for that, I would like to welcome Ramesh Swami, uh, Director, Unnati Foundation. Uh, Unnati was the first organization to get listed a couple of years ago, and the only one probably is to list twice. And we thought that we could not have found anyone more eligible to talk about the exchange on behalf of the organizations. Secondly, I would like to welcome Arun Gupta, President of Pinkish Foundation. Welcome, Arun. Pinkish has recently filed their draft fundraising document on the exchange and are about to get listed. And it would be great to know, to hear about his experience in the whole process and also his feedback. Thirdly, I would like to welcome Dipti George. Dipti is a founder at Utadi, and she has been a member of the secretariat that drafted the report of the working group set up by SEBI to suggest ways to popularize the social stock exchange. This group was formed immediately after the finance minister announced the formation of the SSE. And in a way, the suggestions of this group, recommendations of this group, really formed the basis on which the whole exchange regulations came into being. And her thoughts, especially on the way the group, what went around the recommendations which the group ultimately suggested. Lastly, I would like to welcome Roshan Nair. Roshan is welcome, Roshan. Roshan is the head of the Center of Philanthropy for Inclusive Development at ISDM, which is Indian School for Development Management. And it will be great to hear from him about the mindset of philanthropists and when it comes to impact-led investing. So welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Ramesh. Since you have been the only organization which has got listed twice and also plans to raise more funds on the exchange, tell us about your experience. I'm sure from the time you got listed first and now you got listed, I think about 8-10 months ago. What have been your experience and challenges, and something that you can share with the NGOs which are planning to go for listing?
Yeah, so a lot of things have changed from the time we did and now, right?
Yeah,
It is much more easier, right?
yeah,
When we were the first, every day we had a hurdle, right? And each hurdle got ironed out. But the good thing was because we were the first, um, and we had the support of some great minds like Trilegal was a pro bono which came to us and said, we will help you on the legal side. Unitas, a company which was managing, they were all there with us, and a lot of people, the entire NSC, BSC, SEBI, everybody was eager to see that this happens, right? And we never knew that we could be the first, frankly. We were always, we are a small NGO, we said, but because we had the things in place, we moved forward and it happened. And so in the process, a lot of things got ironed out, right? Whether it is NCS rules, peer review, there were a lot of issues which came up every day, whether this can be done, that can be done. So legal were there, they used to talk to the right immediately, SEBI used to respond, NSC used to respond. So it was a team effort which happened. Uh, I would I would take one step back and tell you why a lot of NPOs should look at it, right?
Yeah.
I think that is more relevant than the struggle, because many of the struggles these days are reduced. Second thing is, if you the lawyer's job, the lawyer will do. We have to give data. It has to happen that way, right? So I think a lot of it is, and I will tell you the reason why I'm saying this. The third one, which we are now going to open in the next 1 week, DFRD filing, we sat down in our office and got every data edited and done and sent it to the lawyers. You require a lawyer. You cannot escape a lawyer, right? You need a lawyer to frame it and put it across in the right manner. And rules keep changing, so they are required. But I would say that we have done 60% of the work. In the first one, maybe we did the data. If data has any percentage, that was fully ours. But other than that, probably we spent 5% on the whole thing. 95% was the lawyer. Today, data and what we have given to them is probably 60% or 70%. So that's the maturity levels,
Yeah.
what we have gained in our just two listings. So I don't think that is something which should be too much worrying, right? Professionals are there, they will help you. But I would still go back and say why. Why is an important thing for many of the NPOs sitting here. Because many NPOs sitting here will say, even if Arun Gupta is asked, he will also say the same thing. He would have brought his filed this DFRD. I am 100% sure at least 80 to 85% of the money which he is going to collect through this DFRD is coming through his own contacts. It is not coming through outside, right? Just because he has filed a DFRD and it is there, SSC is there, money is going to flow in. It's not going to happen. You are going to be asking your own people. So why? Why are you doing it? So I felt one of the first things which you mentioned, which was very, very important, is credibility of the organization. A organization, NGO's credibility, and Rati also mentioned it. So the credibility of the organization, when something like this was announced, we have been in 40 years in social service. Even today, when I go to a funder, he will question us tough questions, and it is sometimes it is infuriating. It is putting you down as to how do you do it, how does the money get spent, all sorts of things, right? So it was disturbing in many ways. We thought this is a great platform which will probably give us an ISO certification and nobody will ask us. It has not happened. It may happen after 5 years, it may happen after 6 years, but the process is on. Today, at least some of the NGOs know, some of the CFOs know, some of the company secretary know that this is how it is, right? So there is a certain amount of things happening. So one, about credibility, is definitely the reason why we thought about. Two, when CSR came, and this is a very important factor which all NGOs must listen to. When CSR came in 2013, it was very loose. People did not contribute, people escaped, they just gave a letter. Today, the finance CFO hand is shivering. The independent director is questioning, is it everything all right, before he signs the annual report, because it's so tough, it's so strict, right? My own view is, in the next few years, SSC will become such a platform that if you are not an SSC, you may not get funding. If you are not an SSC, you are not supposed to get CSR funding. See, Darpan, take a simple case of Darpan. Even today, Darpan is not compulsory. But tell me one CSR company which gives you money today without you having Darpan. They insist on it. It is not required. They insist on it. So I'm saying SSC is an extremely important thing, which if the government continues, because the government has to continue, the finance minister has to continue, the coming next government should support it, all that is there. But if that happens, this could become a very big platform. The third thing which I would love to say is, I remember I've never got my auditor to sign my balance sheet. 30th September is the last date. He will sign it on 29th night. We would have given it in April. He will sign it on 29th night. He'll say, "Arey, your NGO, okay. It's okay. We also pay less." So all that was happening. The moment this shifted, We said, sir, we are an SSE. His mindset changed. He said, I have to do it before 31st of May. You have to file it. I will start working. His attention to us changed. Our attention changed. Our housekeeping, our bookkeeping, everything changed. And that's fantastic, right? So it keeps you on your toes. So it's a great platform to from various angles. I think this is why it should be looked at very seriously.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Ramesh. I think those are uh, very well articulated thoughts, and especially it's pleasing to know that you're not only the first one to go for two listings, but now shortly you'll be going for the third listing, which is great news. And I think this is one more thing which organizations don't realize, that just like CSR, you go for fundraising every year. Even social stock exchange, if you do things right, can be a platform which you can approach year after year, right? I think you are setting a trend. So thanks for that. Uh, uh, Arun, I'll come to you. You are in the midst of the process, and you have already must be starting the fundraising process. Maybe you are meeting the investors. So tell me, I mean, Ramesh, of course, has a experience right from beginning of the SSC, and tell me what is it that you feel now, and what do you think needs to improve with the exchange?
Yeah. Uh, so we also kind of latched onto this opportunity as soon as this kind of came, and we got to know
Mm,
about it. We thought it's a great opportunity. In our case, the great thing was Mr. Swami was doing everything before we had to do it. In the sense,
yeah.
we were reading every Unnati document, the DFRDs, etc., and we did not have any lawyers. So we did everything learning from. Now, in one way, it was good that we could learn and we were able to build in our own stuff. Other hand, SSC in itself, the merchant bankers were kind of getting more pro the development sector, learning those things. And whole thing was changing all the time. So every time you'll submit something, by the time they will understand two more risks, a log frame, something, and this was kind of continuously changing, which to a good extent now is stabilizing, right? Uh, uh, and of course, I'll completely agree with Mr. Swami. Makes a lot of sense. I think not going on SSC, we wanted to be the first ones, one of the few ones to be there on the door, putting one foot downwards, ki we are here, so that it builds immense credibility. Over the period itself, we have seen uh, many organizations come to us. Our primary funding currently is CSR, around 50 organizations whom we have worked with, some of them the largest in the top 200 brackets, who all came to us. We didn't go to them, right? And there, when we inquired, so that SSC listing did make a magic. They said all things are checkmarked. You have the FCRA, you have this, and now you're on SSC. So the government has approved you. The bankers have seen you, so we don't have to ask much. Of course, they will check everything, but that's how it is. Uh, and now I think we're in the listing process very soon. We have presented our DFRD. Now that has been moved to the next stage. We will still kind of cross the next roadblocks and learn things there. Now, great thing is that Mr. Swami is there, and I see. So the Seva Nivesh is a wonderful platform. This is something that organizations like us now will be able to make advantage of, in the sense, now I think you will also help us connect with the investors, while that is a battle that
Yeah.
will run, and there will be tricks and trades we'll learn from Mr. Swami. I'll come to you, sir. Right.
Yeah.
And typically
Sure.
that's otherwise a lot of things I can repeat what he says,
Yeah.
why it is important and everything, but it's already
Yeah.
been helping us. Yes.
Okay. Great. Dipti, coming to you, I've gone through the working group report that was submitted, and I think it has a lot of suggestions and recommendations. And this was before the SSC was formed, and I think some of the suggestions have also been accepted. So, if you can just share a couple of important things, more from a fundraising or more from a investor standpoint, as to what did the working group feel, and where do you see those recommendations getting implemented, or the thought process of the regulators on that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Harshu, for having me here. Um, I must say that I was part of the secretariat. So we were the writing secretariat, which sort of converted the vision of the working group that SEBI had set up, right? And this came out. I think the report came out in around August 2020. Obviously, I must say that during those days, the idea that a capital markets regulator should go into the social sector and understand it and bring in standards that can actually work for the diversity that our country has was an absolutely impossible thing to imagine, right? And yet, I think the finance minister, in fact, pushed for the formation of the committee. And I know it was very tough initially for the various, including SEBI, right, to think about how to go about doing this, because how can we marry these different domains? It seems an impossibility. But it was amazing that, like you're describing, in the committee, there were, individuals from, for instance, rating agencies, from the impact investing side, from the accounting side, right, from ICI. So, and a bunch of others. Please do take a look at the members. But when we put them all in the same room, it was interesting, right? And that's where possibilities started emerging. And I do understand that today, of course, there are many from the beginning onwards. I think, there are, of course, challenges that continue, and there is an advisory kind of standing group or a committee which continues to work on those challenges. However, the idea that we can bring about frameworks that then make it possible to consider the social sector as an investable sort of an asset class, right? Itself was actually given birth to. So and then so really the idea was to say, how can we have so when we look at, okay, what is SEBI, right? What is capital markets? The idea is to root um, uh, pools of capital, tiny, small, large, sitting in all parts of the country, and of course outside of the country, towards productive endeavors via a mechanism that can run at scale, right? We are talking of not person A meets person B, and then that happens bilaterally. The idea is, how can we do it at a platform which is not person to person. It is not what's called an OTC, or over the counter bilateral negotiation, but to say, how can we do it at scale, at speed? And really, that's what happens in the capital markets. How can we bring it to the social sector? So I think at the time when the report came out, and this was, I think, before the India's G20 presidency, which was, I think, France, which was at that time sort of hosting the G20 summit. There, I think this is the only case in the world. I could be wrong on this, but at that point, the thought was that where a capital markets regulator has put in something that actually has a statutory backing, right? Like you're having a regulatory or a design backing from a regulator, which is given statutory powers by the parliament. So therefore, then, sorry, Harsh, to your question of what more needs to be done on the investor side, the idea is, of course, to say, are we capturing the multiple types of investors out there? There also there is diversity. And I think the question, of course, equally applies to the other side, which is who are going to receive funds. There is tremendous diversity there. How do we balance this trade-off, right, between the diversity? We don't want to lose out on the diversity, but we need a way to signal quality. We need a way to signal good governance. So I think that is a tough challenge, and I think that is where work will obviously continue. And in the process of standardization, we don't want to lose out on the nuance that each of these organizations bring, right, from their own context, because that whole I think that's the essence of the social sector that needs to continue. But on the investor side, if we want to do matching at scale, there has to be a way to connect multiple kinds of investors. Where are they sitting? We don't know. What are their mental models that they use in terms of deciding how to put money into the social sector? I think those are the areas where a lot more work, I'm sure, will start happening. So that may be, yeah.
One of the findings I saw in the report was you had recommended using vehicles like a mutual fund or a social impact fund to bring in retail money into the sector. So do you think that happening, or Do you see any major regulatory issues there?
So, I mean, you would be surprised. In fact, the idea was not novel. There was already, there is an example that is quoted in the report.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
you
it's
have
an
given the
HDFC
example.
mutual
Yeah.
fund,
HDFC.
where the dividends which come out of the underlying companies, right, in which the fund is invested, the investor can choose to divert those dividends into charity paper, right? So it goes into already pre-identified. So in fact, there is nothing stopping us regulatorily to let that happen. And then the question is, how should they be marketed? How should they be devised? What could be the investor considerations? And mutual funds are, retail investors do take exposures to mutual funds.
Yeah.
So then the question is, for instance, should the new AIF type or social impact bonds, etc., that come out, should they start appealing to this investor base like they appeal, like a mutual fund would appeal, right? I think those are the questions for us to start thinking about. Really understanding investor behavior, or understanding investor sort of mental models, and then saying how can we structure? Because my sense is they're probably in the mutual fund side. I don't think there are structural constraints. Of course, we could add in more features into it and then make it a lot more sophisticated, such that it meets the needs and the demands of the consumer, of the investor. Sorry.
Yeah, I think HDFC was a very unique and a very, I mean, based on the funds they could raise, I think it must be a success story. Though it's a quite mystery as to why nobody else has repeated that. As you said, there are no regulatory concerns because it has already been implemented.
Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Coming to you, Roshan, you have been working on the philanthropy side, and based on your experience, I mean, what do you think is the level of awareness amongst philanthropists about something like a social stock exchange? Do they know about it? Do you think if they are told about it, there would be some sort of preferential way? I mean, they would look at it more, they would encourage it more rather than just giving donations on the, word of mouth or by hunch.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, and thank you for including me on the panel. I actually will just start with something Diptiji had brought up, which is that with SSC coming online, I think this opens up a whole new definition of who is a giver in India, or in the Indian diaspora, because people who may have not seen themselves as part of this ecosystem now are able to, participate. To an earlier comment that Ratiji had made, which was around trust-based philanthropy, we have several frameworks. We have ourselves put out a framework for inclusive development. But trust-based framework is a simple one, which just says that we are not really going to sort of hound you down for each and every rupee. We trust that you will do something good. But the issue is the trust does not beget more trust. So today, if my organization has the trust of a reputed person, how are others going to know about that? How is that going to increase my future potential to raise such philanthropic capital? Here, at least to the SSC, we have a medium where this becomes visible. Similarly, if there are successes, any individual organization, there are so many on the call, they are having successes in their local area, and in each of their contexts, they really are able to prove something with their work. But again, how do you communicate it to a large audience? I think here SSC is again another medium where we can really communicate a standard language for success, not just one report or one presentation. Rather, this is now an archive that people can go back and refer to. And like I said, the trust builds on both sides. I think this is part of where we started the conversation, building the ecosystem of trust. So absolutely, yes. I mean, the simple cases, of course, if we have a very donation and, very, very, very large givers, I'm sure everyone is actually looking at this. There has been so much interest generated, and it really comes down to the how. And I think Ramesh sir, Arunji, we have all just outlined, kind of the challenges of even the how. Once that is fixed, when do we get to that point where it becomes a regular thing? Yes, of course, large philanthropy is looking at it, organized grant makers, and other institutions are also, of course, looking at it. But again, the question is who else? People who have not really engaged with this issue, whether as you had mentioned earlier, employees in corporate India, or whether it is anyone else who is participating in the market. It becomes so easy and so standardized a way to give that we can expect much more flows to go in. In fact, we are just launching a study in the next year of the current flows and the expected changes that we can look towards from SSC. Like, what are the new potential areas? And I think a few of them were just raised. Thank you.
No, that's interesting. Actually, the way we see it is that if SSC has to work, I don't think, I think Ramesh and Arun both mentioned about apprehensions with which organizations initially had about how complex it is and whether it will add to the cost, whether it will add to the compliances, etc. But I think those are addressable challenges. I think the main challenge that they face is about who is going to invest. And we don't know the investors here. We know CSR companies, but we don't know family foundations or offices or HNIs or even corporate employees. So I think, and that's one challenge we see. And I think at Seva Nivesh, that's going to be our focus as to how do we bring in more investors? How do we make them aware? How do we get them on board? And how do we also make them aware about the organizations which are going for listing? Because I think none of the organizations have really promoted to an external world. I'm sure Ramesh and Arun have met organizations whom they knew or they have networked with. But what about the people whom they don't know? And there are people who want to know about good organizations. So that's where we see a role for Seva Nivesh. And I hope that this initiative that we have thought about really takes off. And we are going to come back to each one of you later on for your individual thoughts on this. On how we can improve. So it's been early days. So let's hope for the good. And thank you each one of you for being on the panel and sharing your thoughts. I would now request my colleague Neeraj to take over.
Thank you, everyone. I think this has been an amazing panel. And there is just so much that I could kind of learn in terms of just the different narratives on the different sides of the NGOs. So with that, so I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to all the participants who have joined us in for the celebration of the inaugural launch of Seva Nivesh. Your presence and encouragement mean a great deal to us. And we truly hope that the NGOs who have already registered for listing or who have filed the DFRD will fully leverage this platform and come on board with us. I also take this opportunity to express my heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest Prati ma'am for taking her time out from the busy schedule and sharing her valuable insights. I would like to also extend my thanks to our esteemed panelists, Mr. Ramesh Swami, Ms. Deepti George, Mr. Arun Gupta, and Mr. Roshan Nair, for this wonderful conversation that we've just kind of had. And there's just so much that everybody kind of picked up on your thoughtful perspectives on today's discussion. A big shout out to our technology partner Synergy Connect for pulling this together under tight timelines and making this portal a reality. It would also be extremely unfair if I forgot to mention all the people behind the scenes at the Seva Tarang Foundation who really made this a reality. A huge shout out to Mitali, Ruchika, Vishal, and Sagar for anchoring this project from start to finish. Once again, thank you everyone here. And I would like to again reiterate, the Seva Nivesh portal is now open for registration, and we look forward to seeing many of you on the platform soon. With that, we come to the end of the program. Wishing you all a lovely weekend and a very, very happy Christmas Eve and a New Year. Thank you.